going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. Hope everybody's been doing great. We just posted out some new reviews, non-spoiler free, of course, of Lee Cronin's The Mummy and A24's Mother Mary. So check those out for this upcoming weekend if you haven't visited the movies yet. But we're going to take a break from the movie talk today, and we're going to be talking about one of our favorite shows from the past few years. At first, it was a little rocky start because it was kind of following that gap of, every other year or something we're going to get it. But luckily, the last few seasons have been, sequential. Like, we've gotten them all in a row.
Yeah, they've definitely been a lot more consistent, for sure.
Yeah. Consecutively, that's the word I meant to say. I was kind of thinking of that scene from that with Cat Williams, who's in jail. He's like, I've been here 16 consecutive years. You know what that means? That means one right after the mother effing other, and I didn't miss a day. But anyways, this is one of those shows, like, kind of like, it definitely is a new addition to the superhero genre in a way that not a lot of shows have really captured this. This and The Boys are definitely more adult friendly and whatnot. And of course, if you haven't guessed it and haven't seen our other reviews, we're talking about Invincible season 4, which is crazy to believe it's already been out for a few years. We'll give me and Bern, as always, with the spoiler reviews. We're going to talk about our rantings and our general likes of it, and then we'll get into some of the things. I particularly will talk about, in the spoiler stuff, the differences I feel I've remembered from reading the books and then, the show. And the last couple, I think for a while, season 1 was my favorite. Like, we had season 1. Season 2 was a bit of a lull, probably mostly, I would say, for me, was because of the wait and all the talk and about the animation being improved, but there wasn't really anything. And then last season I thought was solid because we're finally moving towards the big events in this series. And this season it felt like almost nonstop action the entire season, which I think was the biggest benefit of this show. Because again, this is, without spoiling it, this is one of the many big events that are going to happen in the next coming seasons. Because I think Robert Kirkman, the creator of the show and the books, he said he can see this going for 8 seasons. Will it go that far? Time will tell. But I'm going to give this season a strong 4 out of 5. It's one of the best television shows every time it comes on. Even when the season 2 wasn't great, it was still pretty solid. And if you haven't watched this season yet or anything like that, definitely check it out and come on back and dive in with us. But I can't recommend this show enough, especially for those who are really into pop culture and superheroes. Also, last thing, it's just a nice alternative to Marvel and DC. So that's why I really like this one.
Yeah, man. Look, I mirror pretty much all your thoughts. I think this season has been, it's really tough to really get to the highs of the first season just because of how special it was and just how it took everyone, including myself, by surprise. And like you mentioned, the second season was a little bit of a downgrade, but then season 3 picked it right back up. And this season feels like Invincible just firing on all cylinders. Like you said, it feels like it's all killer, no filler. This time around, like we're like from the first episode to the 8th episode, this story is just moving, and the plot is progressing, and everything that it's been set up by the last 3 seasons. This almost feels like a sort of like a midway for me, like someone who hasn't read the books. This feels like sort of like that midway point of like things have been building up to this, and it feels like whatever comes after is going to be like a whole like different thing basically. But because just because of how like much this season paid off a lot of the things that were set up by the last 3. Everything that they did with Mark and Nolan this season was so interesting to me. That those 2 characters, and hats off to J.K. Simmons and Stephen Yeun, both great performances and really well written characters. It's always fun seeing someone try to like reconcile the things that they've done wrong, and it's so interesting to explore that through the lens of a comic book and through this to this TV show. Now, I thought all of that was really interesting, and also like Mark's inner turmoil, where the guy just hasn't had a break since season 1. Ever since he got his powers, it feels like his life has spiraled out of control, and this season really kicks that into higher gear. And so yeah, everything from the character stories to the overall narrative. This season was just so satisfying to watch, and I have to give it a 4 out of 5 as well. Again, it's hard to top that first season just because of how special it was. But this season got damn near close, and I think that's the hats off to everybody involved because yeah, this was a great season of TV.
Yeah, it's almost a 5 out of 5. It's just there's just a little something missing. I can't put my finger on it. It'll probably hit me later down the line as usual, but yeah, me and Burn can't praise this enough. 4 out of 5 for both of us. One of the best shows this season. So, yeah, like I said, if you guys haven't caught up with it, definitely do so soon. But right now, we're gonna get into the spoilers, where I'm gonna talk about some of the things that were definitely different from the books compared to this, and just some of our favorite aspects, or whatever we're gonna talk about. So, come on back when you're all caught up, and let's get into spoilers, shall we, Burn? First off, I guess let me ask you, Burn, was there either a favorite episode or two you liked with this season, or maybe a favorite scene or something from a episode or so that you liked that stood out to you the most? And then I'll get into my stuff a little bit.
I guess for me, like the one that really stood out for me was the aftermath of the Conquest round 2 fight. Where Mark is sort of like out for the count, recovering, and it's just a father-son bonding time with Nolan and Oliver. Just to get into, I guess, the broader things, now that we're like in spoilers, the fact that like Nolan this whole season is trying to make amends, for all the things he did, and at the end of that first season, the hurt that he caused to not only the world but to his loved ones, right? Like it's his this season is him trying to like to right the ship basically. And I like how everyone, like Debbie, Oliver, and Mark included, how everyone's just kind of like, nah, man, like it's kind of one of those things where it's just hard to come back from what you did, but just to see him trying, and seeing his relationship with him and Oliver as they're trying to survive on this desolate planet, and him imparting some wisdom onto him, and him getting a chance to really be a father to Oliver. It was just a really good character stuff. I really enjoyed all that, and not to mention the Conquest fight was just amazing. Like, again, how the first season, I'm not the first season, the previous season set that up. With the beatdown that we got, just to see that happen again, I wasn't expecting that coming. But yeah, so that sort of element leading into this whole survival father-son bonding thing. I really loved that episode.
Yeah, that's, again, I since the beginning I've said I like that Kirkman not only wrote the books, but he has helmed this show through and through. And after the first season came out, I took it upon myself to read all 3 compendiums, which is pretty much a collection of the main storyline of Invincible. So, given I don't remember everything, but I will say I like that Kirkman made it harder for Nolan to deal with his past, and confronting his family, because in the comics, like, you can only do so much with it, with so much, you can't just stay on one thing for a long time, or else it's a boring read. So in the comics, I remember they definitely were a little bit more quick to forgive him, or not even think about it after the events of like season 2 or last season, where they were on Thraxa, where that's where we met Oliver and stuff like that. I think that was 2 seasons ago. So I like that Debbie really let it all out, that no, there's nothing you can do to get over this. Like, you can't take back anything, and you broke that trust with not only us but the whole world. Like, so it was hard. It's a hard watch, but at the same time, it's like he should have expected that. And I like him and his Oliver's and his dynamic on that planet, on that like floating rock essentially that they were on after the Conquest fight. Because yeah, Oliver was also feeling like any other kid would when their dad's a bit of a deadbeat, kind of like, not to say that no one's intentionally doing that, but he is at the same time, because it's like you literally left one family, created another. Like, where are we going here with your dude? And I really like that differentiated from the comics. But like we were talking about a few minutes ago, that Conquest fight, seeing it in motion compared to just seeing it on stills, is a whole other level of gruesome, because the beatdown that he gave Mark in last season was like, you shouldn't be walking away from that. But I like that's the thing with Mark, and kind of like Alan, the more hits he takes, the stronger he keeps getting, and that's the same with all the Viltrumites and stuff. And so I like that he just said, no, you're not going to breathe again. Just seeing it straight out of the comics, and the animation with that was fan effing tastic. That's the animation I've been waiting to see for a fight. Like the Conquest one in last season was great. This one was better. It's almost like it went from this animation to Japanese animation like an instant, and it worked so well. The other thing I was gonna say, like one of my favorite episodes was, Nolan's and Alan's, when Nolan talks about his life on Viltrum during the Scourge virus. That was something I do not remember reading in the comics, and that was great for Kirkman to show, like, this is the current culture from Viltrum after we found out what happened after Argyle, and is just seeing him as a young dude, parents almost killing him, surviving the virus, and then just like one of the last few Viltrumites in the galaxy is like, it's weird that we shouldn't feel bad for a very genocidal, supremacist kind of like race, but I felt kind of bad. I was like, man, I could see why you're so effed up, dude. Like, you came from a hard life, man. So I just thought that was great on Kirkman to include that episode.
Yeah. Though, just I guess that episode and just everything involving Viltrum and the Viltrumites was so interesting to me because you get to see that their sort of culture is not sustainable. Like it literally eats itself alive, and we see like now they're only down to like less than 100, like less than 50, right? Like people, Viltrumites left.
Just 40 Viltrumites left in the entire, and that's coming from like millions at one point. So it's like, holy shit, that's scary.
Where we saw it, and like where we seem to have seen it in this thriving society, like back when Nolan was younger. But ever since the Argyle died and Thrag took over, it's just been sort of eating itself, like eating its own tail, and just like it's not sustainable. This sort of like ubermensch, like just like a kill or be killed society like this, it just doesn't work. So seeing that and seeing how that sort of informed all of these Viltrum characters, the Thrag, Nolan, and Mark being outside of that, it was just so interesting to look at that whole aspect of it, of who the Viltrumites are and why they are the way that they are. It was super interesting to me.
Yeah, and I liked I love that episode, and I love the penultimate episode where we saw Emperor Argyle. That was not something I remember in the books either. So again, I love all these little additions that Kirkman adds to it. And we saw Thetis. We saw a younger Thetis. He's still pretty old by that point, but we saw Emperor Thetis kind of saying like, no, like, if we keep putting our thumbs on the galaxy, no one's ever going to submit the way you think they are. But Thrag and Argyle are basically cut from the same cloth, of that conservative mindset of like, no, is strength above all else, take it or frickin' leave it. But and this is great commentary on any sort of warrior society or any culture that really emphasizes toxic masculinity, to say the least, because it's not sustainable. It's not the truth of that culture. Like, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but in the coming seasons, we're going to see how Viltrumites will, quote unquote, evolve with that aspect. And so it's every season so far, even though 2 is a bit of a dud, it just keeps it's like it progresses the story while also planting seeds for the next one. And I think Kirkman's really excelled at that. I just love the additions with the Viltrum stuff. I think that was one of the best things we've seen so far. Really enhanced and brought expanding on that culture. And I thought it was a great tie into season 1, where Nolan talks about what the Viltrumite culture was, and that shot of where younger Conquest has the bloody hand and Thula's right next to him and those guys. I was like, man, that is great. Like, that was perfect to show that, because to my understanding, I think in the comics too, is like Viltrum was always just a toxic culture like that. Like, they always killed each other off to kind of prove themselves. But then it's like when Thrag took over and just didn't trust anyone because of the Scourge virus, it literally became a true kill or be killed society. So Nolan definitely had it tougher than Thrag and Thetis did growing up, and I thought that was amazing. My other favorite episode I really liked was the one where we go to hell with Damien Darkblood and all that stuff, because that was not something in the book I don't remember reading either. And it was just interesting to see, like, not only do we get the commentary and like the whole like warrior culture and stuff and the failures that it essentially brings on, but we see the almost flip side of like, oh, hell is real, but it's like it's not as evil as we think it is. Like, it's still a horrifying place and with demons and all that kind of stuff. But I just like Damien's conversation with Mark throughout that whole thing. Like, oh yeah, heaven's not real, but hell is, and there's people can be good regardless of whether it exists or not. I just thought it was just great character work and stuff, and really puts interesting perspectives on everything.
Yeah, I mean, I love how Mark's journey is sort of informed by all the different like characters and like storylines that like sub storylines that he interacts with in this season, and partially why the finale is also one of my favorite episodes is because we get to see sort of the payoff to all that, right? Because from the end of last season and in the beginning of this season, we see how he's like dealing with sort of the PTSD of his interaction with Conquest, and as the season progresses, we see how all these things that are happening to him are really taking a toll on his mental health, and I like how he's sort of breaking the loop, right, of like what a Viltrum is. That's sort of like, like you said, kill or be killed, like that strength above all. Where by the end of this season, Mark is asking for help. Like he's actually telling Cecil that he wants to talk to somebody because all these things that he's like, these anxieties, these fears that he's dealing with are really piling up on him. And it seems like, if he were just a regular, just good old fashioned Viltrum, there would be none of that. He wouldn't be like asking for any sort of like help along his way. But we get to see this human side of him, and why he is as special as he is because he's willing to ask for help. He's willing to make friends with people and really open himself up to having a bunch of like different experiences and stuff. When we see that even though this is like a really sad moment for him, it's just one of those many things that shows why he's so different and why he is who he is. So seeing his whole journey throughout this season was I think it was really, really great writing for a main character. And I know it's kind of hard to like keep the main character of a story interesting, right, if they're as strong as like Mark is, but that Robert Kirkman just continues to find ways to make him interesting, and evolve him as a character. So, I loved all of that.
Yeah, he's definitely accelerated Mark maturing a little bit more, given there's still a lot more story here. So, but I think that this and last season really are starting to set into Mark, like all the trauma he's dealing with, not only with Anissa from the second season, but then we get Conquest, and then this time he wants not only he has to deal with Conquest again, but Thrag. And I really like the effects that it's had on him, just because he is learning like there are real consequences to what we do. It's not just being a superhero and dealing with emotions like in this first season. It's like what you do does impact the world. And I think him killing off the guy who was hosted by the Secwoods, I forgot that character's name, but when he did that, that was also one of those moments in him that made him think like, what am I becoming? Am I becoming more like my dad or something worse? And I think that's great. It's almost like that's the kind of commentary I feel like a lot of comic books and like characters like that don't really comprehend half the time. So I think that's why I really like this show too, is that it's a way more mature take on it, while at the same time being very silly, just because you have voices like Bruce Campbell as Satan, Seth Rogen as Alan, and some of these really funny people, but they're all these big pieces that form this giant puzzle of this complicated show. So I do agree with you. I think that's great character work. I'm glad Kirkman's really improved on that, and we're going to get more Eve's character work too. I think he actually improved on that a little bit too with that story. Because I kind of forgot why she was like all distraught, but then rereading it, I was like, oh, that's right. That was how it happened, where they were gone for months. It wasn't like, oh, he's gone for like 2 or 3. It's like he was almost gone an entire year. And so her having to deal with that by herself and then having to get the abortion, unfortunately, was like, it's heartbreaking. But at least that in the comics, that was also true to Mark, where he did feel horrible about that. So I'm glad he kept that, but also that conversation they had when they woke up where he's like, no, I should have been here. I don't know what's going to happen now. Like, I'm scared of what's going to be in the future because I can't be there for you and be the person I need to be. So it's just great stuff. I really like that. And the voice work has been amazing as usual. Lee Pace was not my first choice as Thrag, but of course, he still got it. I kind of think of King Thranduil every time I hear him talk and just how his character is. But again, it works really well. And Thrag is not, he's definitely not gone yet, but he's not the only big bad that we're going to see for the rest of the story. So just be prepared without spoiling everybody.
That's good to know. It's funny because Thrag was a character that I kind of had to warm up to because like after Conquest, it just feels like this guy doesn't really like feel as like at least to start didn't really feel as menacing or as like scary of a threat. But by the time we get to the end of the season and the ultimatum that he gives Mark at the end of it, it's like, oh no, this guy is so much worse. And after you see like kind of what his actions led to the downfall of Viltrum, like yeah, this guy is bad news. And yeah, like Lee Pace, like he plays him as like a little bit more like it's hard to say, like you think like he would be like as a tyrant, right, like big and bombastic and stuff, but he's so measured and he's so in control, and so like it makes it those moments where he does lose it a little bit very scary. I was not expecting Thetis to get one shotted like he did, but again, it just goes to show that this guy is a real threat. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to what they do with Thrag in the later seasons, because yeah, while I didn't think he was scary at all to begin with, by the end of this, I was like, this guy's bad news. This is really bad news.
Oh yeah, again, Kirkman, man, my biggest fear too with stuff like this is that when a creator takes over his own show, it could either make it really worse because he could either double down on maybe some of the flaws and stuff that he had maybe when he wrote the books. Not that I don't think the books are flawed, but compared to the show, they are almost like night and day in how some of the characters are and their motivations and dialogue. But he has really improved upon it because, yeah, in the comics, Thrag was a little bit more of a, like, he was a little bit more bombastic and a little bit more quick on the trigger, like just being angry. So him being more calm and calculating, like the conversation between him and Nolan on Viltrum itself was not part of the fight whatsoever. The fight was literally just supposed to be like, fisticuffs, no matter, like right from the get-go. So I like that conversation, and seeing him wind up almost like a Super Saiyan and punching Nolan into the outer orbit was like, holy crap, that's actually really good, because that does show like he is not the Viltrumite you want to mess with whatsoever. Like Conquest, when I first read him in the comics, like, dude, there's no way someone's scarier than him. And then seeing Thrag, I'm like, this is the guy that they're scared of, kind of like Ace Ventura in the second one with the skinny guy. And it's like, yeah, he's one of the best villains, one of my favorite villains in general. And there's going to be an epic fight between him and another character. I don't want to say who, but I'm really excited to see what happens with that. And I also just like the animation with the fight scenes, like the big fights, they counted where they needed to, because that fight on Viltrum was just epic. Like I got goosebumps, especially when Space Rider came in with the Ragnars on him. I was like, oh, good, they did include that, because for a second I was like, wait, what's happening? Why is he not there? But yeah, just great stuff. I'm glad you brought that one up, because that one was really good.
Yeah, and then just to jump off your comment, the animation, in particular with the fight sequences this season, have been pretty dang good. I know we were giving flack to the show like in the earlier seasons for like not really having the best animation, but it seems like this time around they really made it count where they needed to, and I think they punched up those moments pretty well. The ones that we need to, which are the big sequences. So, yeah, what can I say? Again, this is just one of the reasons this season is one of my favorite of the show so far.
Same here, man. I think this is my favorite season right now. Um, a couple other things I really liked real quick were just I like the sex change with the gender swap with Tech Jacket, because in the comics it's supposed to be like a dude, and I remember thinking like it just looks more like a little bit more Asian version of Mark. So I like that they switched it up and had Zoe Deutsch voice her, because she was great. I think she was a little underpowered, but at the same time she's still like a kid in this like super powered suit, so she's not ready for a full on war like that. I just loved all the voice casting. Again, the biggest thing was just the Viltrum backstory, that we got to see the planet essentially in its heyday and seeing Emperor Argol himself. I thought those were some really cool payoffs after reading the books and getting a taste for this universe. And yeah, like I said, I'm really excited for the next couple seasons, because it's going to be some serious stuff. Like Robot and Monster Girl, they're going to be a big thing I'm assuming next season. I don't know. And Dinosaurus, he's another character that everyone should look out for in the coming seasons.
Nice, yeah. Really looking forward to seeing what they do with those characters. Obviously, our main characters as well, and yeah, wondering what's going to happen with Alan and the virus. So, lots of really interesting plot threads, and not to mention all the Viltrumites that are now on Earth. So, yeah, a lot of really cool stuff that I'm looking forward to. Season 5 can't come soon enough. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Since you brought up the whole Viltrumites and then the Scourge virus, I want to talk about it, but I don't want to ruin it for you or everybody else. So got to keep my mouth shut. Before we finish up, Bern, was there anything you feel like this season could have improved upon, or maybe something that was missing, or are you like me where it's like, I don't know, I'll figure it out later?
Basically, yeah. I was very much again satisfied with this season. So as long as they keep up this sort of quality going forward, you'll hear no complaints from me. Because yeah, this is really really good.
Same. I wish the animation, like with the fight stuff, is that I hope we keep seeing that consistency, because then it's gonna keep getting better and better. But yeah, so that's all I got. Basically, almost universal praise from both me and Byrne. I'm sure we'll talk about what was sitting on our minds later. But for those of you who did happen to watch this season, maybe if you read the comics too, let us know what your thoughts were on it without spoiling stuff. Of course, like I know we talked about spoilers, but doesn't mean everyone needs to see it in the comments. So until next time, everybody, just stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.